Derek, this is a young man that is so dynamic. We've talked about it at length. Now, the other day, Chris Russo and I were having a conversation about the Twins' decision to play Byron every 2 of 3 games. We looked at it in 2 different ways. Tell me how you look at it. That's the most important.
Yeah, I think great to be on with you first and foremost. And talking about Byron's one of the most fun things I get to do in this job, that's for sure. He's somebody who's so dynamic and so talented. And ultimately, he's had some struggles, staying on the field. From an injury standpoint, he'd be the first to admit that. He's gone through some ups and downs, and he hasn't played over 100 games in a handful of years. We're trying to break that mark this year and hopefully exceed it by a good margin. But in order to do so, we're being thoughtful about how we keep him on the field, how we plan for it, how we respond to his body. Because, as you just said, he's hit 11 home runs already, not in full-time play. If we can keep him on the field through the course of the season, and of course, late September, and hopefully when we're playing October baseball, that's ultimately the goal.
Yeah, load management for sure for Byron Buxton. And Carlos Correa showed me something the other day. He had some comments in The Athletic about, hey, if you're questioning anything about our star player, you don't know bleep about baseball. And Carlos Correa does, because he's a very analytically minded, smart player. Speak to his leadership in that clubhouse, particularly with Byron.
Yeah, we don't do anything without really thinking through it and talking through it and ultimately evaluating all sides of the decision. And I think Carlos has been able to see that from the moment he walked through the door. He understands what we're doing with Byron, why we're trying to keep him on. Byron understands it. And ultimately, those two will locker right next to each other and talk about it every day. Everyone's on board with the plan. So at the end of the day, Carlos is supportive of his teammate. He's supportive of everyone in that room. He finds a way to impact everybody every day when he walks through the door. And I think he's even elevated who Byron is as a leader just by influencing him with the way he goes about his everyday routine.
Derek, Carlos is used to winning. He did so often with the Houston Astros. He goes to the Minnesota Twins. You guys sign him to a 3-year deal with opt-outs, of course, after the first season. Any more conversations about him wanting to stay there? Because Minnesota's winning and he's a part of that.
Yeah, no doubt. And we've made no secret of the fact that we'd love Carlos to be here over the long term. We recognize it was a unique offseason and a late sign here with us, but he wanted to be here, and he said as much. He loves Minnesota. So we'll continue to have that dialogue, certainly with his representatives and Carlos. We've developed a really good relationship so far, and we're hopeful that he's here over a longer period of time.
You guys are 3 games up on the Chicago White Sox. I don't need to tell you that, but this is a very good division in the AL Central, particularly with those 2 clubs, you guys and the White Sox, who have been fairly banged up. So we got to put that in there too. Is this anyone's division for the taking in your mind?
Well, we came into it really with a healthy respect for the White Sox. What they did last year, winning this division, the talent that's on that roster, we still feel that way. Ultimately, they've found a way to grind it out, as you said, through some injuries and get themselves right in the mix. They're not far behind us right now. We get that. And ultimately, we see the Guardians and Royals and Tigers and other teams. Those teams are talented teams, teams that are developing some good young players in some cases. So we know we don't take anything for granted. Ultimately, the standings are where they are. All we can control is playing tonight, ultimately, and seeing where it shakes out. But Rocco's done a nice job. The players have done a nice job just focusing on what they can control today.
Yeah, you guys lost 13 of 19 to the Pale Hose last year. You've swept them so far this season in early April. Let's speak a little bit more about your pitching staff, because I think people knew that you had the lineup and it was going to be a lineup that could hit, but your pitching has been particularly impressive. What have you noticed?
Yeah, I think throughout the group, really, both the starting rotation and what we've gotten out of the bullpen has been really consistent. With Joe Ryan, with Sonny Gray, Dylan Bundy. Unfortunately, you had Chris Paddock go down with an injury, but the depth that we've been able to accumulate with Josh Winder, a young pitcher kind of coming up and stepping up for us, and Chris Archer coming back, a guy who not long ago was a really top end of the rotation starter in the big league. So everyone's worked together, tried to find a way to lean on each other. I think they pitched maybe a little better than outside expectations, but in line with what they thought, as a group that they could go out and do. And we're really happy with it.
Yeah, you guys lose Chris Paddock. You had mentioned that. Goes out with Tommy John surgery. How's he doing?
He's doing okay. I think ultimately when you have a Tommy John and he's gone through it once before, it's disappointing. There's just no way around that, right? You're going to be down for a year and you'll come back after that. But we have Chris now here for at least the next few seasons. This year and then the next 2. So we're hoping to get him back on the field next year, pitching for us, and ultimately being another part of our rotation that hopefully will step up next year.
Yeah, that ERA, Derek, is in the top third in all of baseball. You guys are 10th in the majors in earned run average, but you could still use some help. I'm sure most president of baseball operations are looking at that. Is that a focus of yours right now before the deadline, or just kind of looking for maybe another frontline starter to continue to get to where you guys want to be?
Yeah, you never go into a season. I don't think anyone sitting in my chair thinks you have enough pitching at any moment in time. There's always injuries. There's always setbacks. We need to develop our internal guys as much as possible. Obviously, the trade stuff will come up during the course of the summer. It doesn't come this early typically. So we'll have those conversations as the summer wears on and try and figure out where our needs are. But right now, I'm really happy with the group continuing to develop, the young players that are coming behind it. And hopefully guys like Bailey Ober coming back this weekend and others that could slot right back in will give us that boost.
You mentioned young players coming up. Royce Lewis is one of those players. And what did he do for you in the absence of Carlos Correa? Just put on a show in his major league time there. And by the way, Carlos Correa comes back, and then it's El Bencho, go back to the minors. But what do you think about what you saw from this young man? Obviously a promising future.
Yeah, we love what Royce brings to the game and to the ballpark every day. And we're excited about his future. And we want to continue to develop him at shortstop. He didn't get 2020 because of the no minor league season, and he lost last year because of an ACL surgery. So he's had 2 years down. We need him to play every day. We need him to go out there. We are going to move him around some to play some other positions because, as you said, with Carlos back, Carlos is an everyday shortstop. That's what that's his badge of honor for sure. And we know that Royce, if he's going to impact our club this year, maybe some at short, might need to also play some other positions. So we'll use some time in AAA to get him that exposure, get him that experience, and ultimately see if he can find a way to back onto this roster and help us compete this year.
Yeah, 308 average, 2 home runs in 11 games. Love the way that he's been playing so far. I want to talk to you, though, about the balance of bringing up a young kid like a Royce Lewis and making sure that they've experienced failure as well at the minor league level so they know how to deal with it at the big league level. It seems a topic of conversation. Sometimes guys get rushed up. What's your philosophy?
Yeah, you're spot on, Alana. And I think that is a hard thing for sometimes the fans to appreciate in the moment. You want to see a guy go through ups and downs. One thing that was told to me a long time ago by a longtime major leaguer was, don't let someone experience something. If you can avoid it, don't let someone experience something at the major league level for the first time. Ultimately, go through some of those ups and downs in the minor leagues, whether it's a new position, change in the batting order, having a hit and run or bunt or do some things off the bench. Ultimately, those are all part of development. And I think Royce, because he did lose those couple of years, we're trying to accelerate that as best we can. He's a talented young man, incredibly athletic. Now we want to refine those skills so that he has the ability to impact us over the long term here in Minnesota.
And one more thing for you, kind of related to Royce Lewis. He was in the conversation about the pitch clock. Obviously, they're using it in the minor leagues, and guys have very different opinions about it. And he said that it's always on your mind. What is your opinion of the use of the pitch clock, perhaps getting pitchers out of their rhythm, getting hitters out of their rhythm, just kind of understanding the need to speed up the game, but at the same time maybe taking guys out of their comfort zones?
Yeah, it's different for sure. And anytime you do something new and you introduce something, whether it's replay or pitch clocks or different changes in the minor leagues, I think that it's going to be hard on guys initially. But players are adaptable. These are some of the best athletes in the world, and ultimately they find a way to adapt. We've already seen it with some of the changes at the major league level. I fully expect that the players will adapt to a change like this should it come to the major leagues.
All right, Derek Falvey, president of baseball operations for the first place Minnesota Twins in the AL Central. Thank you so much for being with us for a few moments today on High Heat.